Thank you for joining us, everybody. We'll get started in about 2 minutes. Hello, and welcome to one of today's Tiger Alumni Week webinars, Disney Without Lines. I'm Shane Ryan, an Associate Director of Advancement here at RIT and your moderator this evening. Before I introduce our speaker, there are a few housekeeping points I want to go over. All attendees have joined in mute mode. However, your questions can be entered in the Q&A box at any time throughout the discussion. We will make every effort to address all your comments and questions throughout the webinar. This webinar will be recorded and made available in upcoming weeks. A communication with how to access the recordings will be sent out and also posted on our website. If you have any technical questions, please feel free to type those into the chat box as well, and we'll do our best to get you the appropriate answers. We'd also like to thank our premier sponsor, Sharp Notions, as well as our Tiger sponsor, Rochester Regional Health, for making this week's programming possible. We would also like to thank our Access Services teams for helping us make this webinar accessible for all our alumni. Real-time captioning is available within the webinar, and our interpreters will be spotlighted throughout the presentation. The pandemic has had a major impact on everyone, including our students. We thank all of our alumni and friends for their support you have given to our students during these uncertain times. If you are interested in supporting or continuing your support, make sure to mark your calendars for this year's Roar Day, which will be held tomorrow. We will be giving challenges, an alumni scavenger hunt, and more. So please consider making a gift to support students who need it now more than ever. Can't wait for Roar Day? You can make a gift right now by visiting rit.edu/roar, and your gift will be counted towards Roar Day total and help RIT achieve its $1.5 million goal. Now on to our session. We are pleased to welcome Dr. Katie McConky, who will take you on a virtual trip to Disney and discuss some tips on how to avoid the lines. Dr. McConky is an associate professor in RIT's Industrial Engineering Department and has been with RIT since fall of 2014. As a former student and graduate of RIT's ISE department, she is very excited to return after completing her Ph.D. at SUNY Buffalo. Prior to returning to RIT, she spent 7 years in the industry as a research scientist at CUBRC, Inc. During a majority of her last 4 years with CUBRC, she acted as a lead data scientist for Trove and focused on big data analytics in the energy space to find novel uses of smart meter data. Together with Trove, a nationally leading utilities, she created applications for energy theft detection, demand forecasting, demand response applications for peak energy demand reduction, and energy efficiency marketing strategies. Her primary research interests are in applying operations research tools to improve energy efficiency and resiliency in the electricity and transportation sectors, as well as to improve national and cybersecurity. In her spare time, she enjoys visiting Disney theme parks around the world and has currently been to every Disney park in North America and Asia. Katie, thank you for joining us. The audience is all yours.
All right. Thank you, Shane. And thank you guys all for being here. I'm sure the last thing you want to do is attend another Zoom meeting. So I really appreciate you coming to this one. Let's see here. Let's share screen number 2. All right. So today we're going to talk about touring theme parks without the lines. And I've sneakily snuck in some sort of operations research undertones in here to get you excited about industrial engineering. As Shane said, I'm a graduate of RIT. I'm currently an associate professor in the Industrial and Systems Engineering Department, and I'm also the director of our ISE grad program. So the outline for today is I'm going to start my class the way I start every class I teach at RIT. I'm going to tell you all about me. It's just one slide. And then we're going to learn about operations research at about a 10,000 foot level. And then we're going to see some operations research in action. And our specific action is that we're going to basically challenge some optimal touring plan strategies and see if we can beat them with our own strategies. And as you can see down here, I have many different pictures of myself and my husband with Pluto. And we're in all 4 theme parks. So here we're in Epcot and the Magic Kingdom, Hollywood Studios, and Animal Kingdom. And we're wearing the same outfit. It's not because we just only brought one outfit on vacation. It's because we're like totally obsessed with Disney and we design crazy challenges for ourselves. So this particular day, we were trying to meet as many characters as possible. So as far as like Disney background, I can say that I've been to Disney at least once a year for the past probably 15 years. I like to bring Disney to my students as well. So whenever I'm attending a conference that's close to a Disney park, I make sure to grab my students and we go to the park too. So far I've been able to bring 7 students with me to the park. And here we see Dimple Joseph. She's actually in the audience today. So hi, Dimple. All right, so about me. These are like the 10 most important things that I tell all my students. So one most important thing, number 1, is my son, West. He's almost too big to sit on his dad's shoulders now. He's about 10. Second most important thing is my husband. He has seen this slide and he's gotten really upset that he wasn't number 1. But you know, the kid comes first. Third most important thing is you guys, my students for the day. So for the next hour, you are the most important thing. As long as my son and husband don't like keel over and die in the background there, my attention is all on you. Fourth most important thing are my parents. Here we are, I dragged them to a Halloween party at Disney. Fifth come my dogs. So I have 2 dogs now. 6 comes up over here, it's vacations. I love to plan vacations and I'm in complete torture right now, not being able to plan anything or go anywhere. So we're going to pretend for the day that we can actually go on a trip to Disney and enjoy it. So for the next hour or so, just like come with me on a trip to Disney where there's no COVID. Number 7 is cute furry creatures. I encourage my students to send me pictures of them. I enjoy exercise and being healthy. My dad's a PE teacher, so every time I call him, the first question is, have you exercised today? So I make sure to do something. And then rounding out the top 10 are geocaching and reading. All right, so that's everything you need to know about me. As far as my professional career, Shane has already talked about it. I was a lead data scientist for Trove. We did a lot of energy data analytics. And I also worked for CUBRC Inc. They're primarily a defense contractor, and we did a lot of defense situational awareness work for defense organizations. So my background is not necessarily traditional industrial engineering, which is often in the manufacturing or service industry. It was heavy on data analytics and optimizing systems. So I took my sort of data analytics background with me to RIT. One of the projects I'm working on now is looking at RIT's energy demand. And if we look at their energy demand, we can see, for example, a typical month has like an energy profile that looks something like this, where we can see it's high during the week And then the energy is lower on the weekends and it's high during the day and low at night. So a typical energy profile. But if we sort of draw this imaginary line, we can see that there's these 3 days here that are like a lot higher than all the other days. So we're calling those peak days. And we call them peak days because clearly the energy is peaking, but RIT gets charged demand charges based on that highest level of energy demand observed throughout the month. And those peak charges are actually about 70% of the bill. So there's this really high surcharge on our bills based on these days that are higher than all of the other days in the month. So we're working on predicting these days ahead of time so that we can employ mitigation strategies to lower the demand on just those 3 days. And you might wonder, well, why don't you just run those mitigation strategies on every day? Typically, they involve some sort of thermal control. So we don't want to make people too hot or too cold on all these other days of the month when really we just want to do those options on these 3 days only. And I'm also currently looking at some more traditional operations research type problems, but this time trying to use deep learning. So you may have heard of deep learning. It's like neural networks with many, 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 many layers. And what we're trying to do in these projects is imagine we have a whole bunch of threatening zones where we can't go. So we can't go in all these red zones, but there's targets of interest. Maybe they're surveillance targets, or maybe they're people we're trying to rescue at all these little square dots. And we have several assets that can go visit these locations. And we want to know which locations should we visit in which order so that we can maximize our reward, but be able to get back home. And this is actually an extremely difficult problem to solve. And if you were to just let traditional integer programs solve it, it would just run forever and ever and ever. But with our deep learning models, we're getting really, really good results, and it takes less than a second to provide an answer. All right, so we're coming up on my first poll. So I would like to know, have you ever heard of operations research? And so you have, I think, 4 choices. A will be, yes, I love operations research. B will be, maybe it kind of sounds familiar. C is, I've never heard this term before in my life. And D is, I'm just here because I love Disney. Let's talk about that. So let's see if I can start this poll successfully. Launch poll. All right, so if you guys can go put that in so I know a little bit more about my audience, we'll carry on from there. All right, well, 16 of you answered. We'll call that good enough. All right, so it looks like the biggest answer was, yes, I love operations research, which is kind of cool because actually typically not too many people have heard of operations research, and I'm trying to get people more excited about it. So I'm excited to know that 38% of you already have heard of it. And the quarter of you who are here just because of Disney, that's why I would be here too. So I'm happy to have you guys as well. All right, so let's close this little bugger. All right, so operations research in a nutshell is the science behind decision making. And we're not just concerned about any type of decision. What we're concerned about with OR is looking at problems where there's many, many, many possible solutions, and we want to find the one best solution. So we want to find the optimal solution. And there's lots of problems that fall into this sort of scheme. And what we see with our operations research model, a common technique to solve them is to write a mathematical model and solve it. And the mathematical models look kind of scary sometimes. So they'll look like this. And there's a few important parts of a model, and that's what I want you to be familiar with. So every model will have an objective, and our objective is basically our goal. So here, this is actually the model for that threat zone problem that I was talking about earlier. And in that problem, what we're trying to do is maximize rewards. in our Disney example that we're going to go through later, we're going to be trying to minimize our time in the park. So we always have an objective function. And then we always have a whole bunch of constraints. And our constraints are basically saying what is and isn't feasible. It provides sort of the rules or logic that you have to follow to find an optimal solution. So those are the two main parts of an OR model. You have to identify your objective, and then you have to sort of identify your constraints. And some of these are budgetary constraints. Some of them might be more like logical constraints, like you have to go pick up the passenger before you drop him off, things like that. So I wanted to go over some applications of OR that we're seeing here at RIT in our industrial engineering department. One of them, which is actually pretty relevant right now, is optimizing the assignment of patients to hospital beds. So we've had Mike Kuhl and Dr. Ruben Peranio working on that. Dr. Ruben Peranio is also very intimately involved in creating optimal vaccine markets and optimal vaccine marketplaces. And what he's trying to do is to show that if basically the whole world worked together, that we could provide vaccines to the low-income countries more affordably and still provide profits for the vaccine makers so that everybody is actually happier than they are now. I personally am looking at battery sort of scheduling models. So right now I'm looking at residential houses and imagining if they had a battery system, how would we want to charge and discharge that battery? And you can change the objective to be like, I want to minimize emissions, or you could say, I want to minimize cost, or I want to maximize my self-consumption of these solar panels. So there's a bunch of different objectives, and depending on your objective, the battery scheduling of charging and discharging is totally different. Another project by Mike Kuhl is looking at automated material handling systems. So he has a grant from Toyota to develop automated fork truck systems that will drive themselves to where they're supposed to be, pick up a load, drop it off, all without running into other forklifts or people, and do it efficiently. And this is actually really challenging to figure out not only how to operate the fork truck autonomously, but also how to route them and assign tasks. And then this example that I was talking about earlier, where we're traveling around trying to maximize our rewards, is also an example of an operations research project. But today we're not going to talk about any of those anymore. We're going to talk about OR in action, and our action is going to be touring theme parks. In particular, we're going to tour the Magic Kingdom today, and we're going to test out some touring plan strategies to see which one works best. Okay, so I want you to imagine for a second that you're standing at the gates of the Magic Kingdom. You got there really early, so you're standing right outside and the train is going to come by in a few minutes and you're getting really excited and you have your map and you're looking at it and everybody in the family is looking at the map and you're like, oh, I want to see Space Mountain, and someone else is like, oh, I want to see Splash Mountain, and you're kind of discussing what you're going to do first and then next. Maybe you're planning your whole day. Hopefully we've all been to a theme park before. Maybe some of you have even been to Disney before, specifically the Magic Kingdom. And I'd like to know, which of these strategies that I'm going to present have you heard about? So the question is going to come up and it's going to say, which of these theme park touring strategies have you heard is good and or have you used yourself? So you're not ranking these. You can choose more than one. Typically, I would poll the audience and I would grab these from you, but these are ones that come up more often than others, and I might have thrown in some fake ones in here too. But a typical one is like the most popular attraction first. So you're going to run to the one that you think is going to have the busiest line, or similarly, your favorite attraction first. They're usually pretty similar. You might say, hey, I'm going to avoid the rush to those popular rides. I'm going to go to the least popular attraction first. Some people have suggested running right to the back of the park first, and then moving on from there while everybody's more towards the front of the park doing those attractions. I've heard always go left. I've heard always go right. And then there's the, hey, look, squirrel option, where you kind of have a vague plan. So maybe your plan's like, oh, I'm going to go to Space Mountain. But on your way to Space Mountain, you see a parade and you stop to watch the parade. And then you follow the parade and then all of a sudden you're on Jungle Cruise. So what have you guys, of these touring plan strategies, have you heard about before? It should be up there and you should be able to answer. I should have had like Jeopardy music to play while you guys are answering polls. All right, so let's share these results. Okay, so it looks like a lot of you guys have heard of the most popular attraction first strategy. Coming up next is the back of the park first strategy. Hey, look, squirrel, also pretty popular. And then these other ones, like people have definitely heard of, you might have even have tried them. Sort of the goal here is just to say, yeah, of all these strategies, we've definitely tried a few of these or heard that they're good. So let's see. When I hope that made the poll go away. All right, so today what we're gonna do is I'm gonna give us a list of 10 attractions. And our goal is to see these attractions as quickly as possible and then get out of the park. So the attractions that we're gonna see are Space Mountain. It's a wild roller coaster ride in the dark. We're gonna see Splash Mountain. It's a flume ride with whimsical characters. We're gonna see Big Thunder Mountain. So this is a Wild West train ride. Seven Dwarfs Mine Train is another roller coaster in the park. It's one of the newer ones. We'll take a slow cruise on Peter Pan's Flight and we'll ride a pirate ship above London and Neverland. We'll take a trip on Haunted Mansion and make sure we don't get picked up by any hitchhiking ghosts. We're gonna check out Pirates of the Caribbean. We'll take a tour on Buzz Lightyear's Space Ranger Spin, which is like a live arcade where we get to battle the evil Emperor Zurg. You definitely have to meet Mickey at Mickey's Town Square Theater. And we'll round up our day. And actually, we might not even do this order, but we'll definitely be seeing the Jungle Cruise while we're on our tour. So these are the 10 attractions that our goal is to see these attractions, all of them, all 10. All right, so we have 10 attractions. And there's not actually a poll associated with this one, but I want to pause for a second and think about how many different possible touring plans are there given 10 attractions. You know, are there 100 possible ones, 10,000, a billion? What are you guys thinking? There's actually 3.6 million ways to see these 10 attractions. So to put that in perspective, if we each wrote down one unique order every second for the next 8 hours, so we're here till like 2 in the morning, just writing down orders, we'd only write down 1.1 million of them. So there'd still be another like 2.5 million left to go. If we added another 5 attractions, there'd be 1.3 trillion ways to see the different attractions. So this is an example of combinatorial explosion. There's just so many ways to see these different attractions that it becomes highly unlikely that we would be able to choose out of the 3.6 million ways, the one best way to see them. So that's where operations research is going to come in, save the day. So what we're going to do is we're going to test some common theme park strategies, and we'll end up comparing them against the optimal touring plan. So before we get started, let's we'll test our intuition as well. So the strategies we're going to test today are back of the park first, clockwise, counterclockwise, least popular attraction first, and most popular attraction first. And for the least and most popular attraction, the way I determined those was I looked at the Walt Disney World. They have like an app that shows the wait times. So I looked at their app the day that I was making these models at 11 a.m. And whatever had the longest line at 11 a.m., that was the most popular attraction. And whatever had the shortest line at 11 a.m. was the least popular attraction. So I did it based on wait time. Okay, and we're going to be seeing some maps like this. So I wanted to take a second and orient you. So here we see the clockwise touring plan. And if we wanted to look at this map, down here is the park entrance. And as you walk in here, the castle would be straight ahead of you. And then over to this right-hand side, that would be Tomorrowland, where we'd find rides like Space Mountain and Buzz Lightyear. And if we went over here to this left-hand side, we'd find Adventureland and Frontierland. So that's where Pirates, Jungle Cruise, Splash Mountain, Thunder Mountain, they all live over there. And in the back here is Fantasyland. So you'll see a lot of these maps. You might not be as intimately familiar with the Disney layout as I am, so I tried to give you some sort of landmarks here. But for our clockwise route, we're going to start and meet Mickey right away, right at the entrance. And then we're going to traverse clockwise around the park. So we're going to then go to Jungle Cruise, followed by Pirates of the Caribbean, head up to Splash Mountain, ride Thunder Mountain, then Haunted Mansion, Peter Pan. We'll ride Seven Dwarfs Mine Train, and then end our day with Space Mountain and Buzz Lightyear's Space Ranger Spin. If we did that order in the opposite order, that'd be going counterclockwise. It'd just be the complete opposite. So we'd still start with Mickey because he's at the front of the park. But then we'd head to Buzz Lightyear, Space Mountain, go through the back where we'd ride Seven Dwarfs Mine Train, Peter Pan, Haunted Mansion. And then we'd end with our Thunder Mountain, Splash Mountain, Pirates, and the Jungle Cruise. Our three other plans we're looking at are, the first one is most popular first. So these are spaghetti diagrams start to go a little bit insane and we're running all over the park. But our most popular has us running towards the back, and we're gonna ride Seven Dwarfs Mine Train because it's super popular right now because it's new. Then we'll head over to Space Mountain because even though it's older, it's still one of the most popular rides in the park. Then head to Jungle Cruise. Then we go way to the front of the park to meet Mickey, then all the way to the back to ride Peter Pan. Then back over to ride Buzz Lightyear Space Ranger Spin. Across the park again to Haunted Mansion, go to Thunder Mountain, Pirates, and then end our day with Splash Mountain. And you might be wondering like, oh, why is Splash Mountain last if it's the most popular attraction first? The day that we're hypothetically going is in December, around Christmas time. And at 11 a.m. in December, it's kind of chilly. So not many people are wanting to ride Splash Mountain early in the morning. So that's why it ended up towards the end of the day. All right, least popular first goes similarly kind of all over the place. So we're headed toward Buzz Lightyear, then across the park to Haunted Mansion, then to Splash Mountain. Looks like Pirates of the Caribbean, then Thunder, over to Peter Pan, back to the front of the park for Mickey Mouse, then to Jungle Cruise, and then we end with the busiest rides, Space Mountain and Seven Dwarfs Mine Train. And then our final option is our back of the park, then left. So I actually evaluated back of the park, then right, and back of the park, then left, and they were within, I want to say, like 2 to 3 minutes of each other. So we're just looking at one option here, where we run all the way back to Seven Dwarfs Mine Train, and then we do all the attractions in the back of the park. So we're doing Peter Pan and then Haunted Mansion, and then we just continue to work our way around. So it would be Thunder Mountain, Splash Mountain, Pirates, Jungle Cruise, zoom across the back, park to get to Space Mountain, Buzz Lightyear, and then end our day with Mickey Mouse. So I know that's a lot to take in. Typically, I actually hand these out and people can like hold them and rearrange them and talk to their friends with them. But we unfortunately don't have that luxury today. So given these 5, and maybe just your intuition, which of these 5 do you think would be the fastest? And if you have somebody in the room with you, feel free to like chat with them because it's interesting to see what other people think. So do you think it's going to be the back of the park first, clockwise, counterclockwise, least popular, or most popular? Which one of these is going to be the best one? Looks like I have a few extra choices in that list, so feel free to choose those too. I just thought of something that this is supposed to be a class without quiz, right? And then here I am giving you quizzes the whole time. Ah, it was false advertising. All right, so let's see what you guys said. All right, so we're gonna keep track of this order. It looks like you guys are tied with the most popular attraction first as being the best. Most popular and back of the park first. But interestingly enough, the always go left and always go right also got, you know, pretty high votes. And least popular attraction first, one person also thought that that would be the best. So if we put all of you guys in the front of Disney and said, go follow one of these strategies, all of them would be covered. And some of us would be, unfortunately, very wrong. But we'll see that shortly. All right, so similarly, sometimes it's pretty easy to figure out which one would be the best. Can you guys figure out which one is going to be the slowest? Which one do you guys think will be the slowest? All right, I think I got a lot of you, if not all of you. So looks like we actually have some consensus that the least popular attraction first is maybe not the best thing to do. Let's see, least popular. I've got 8 votes. And some of you still even thought the most popular would really maybe not be the best thing to do. I imagine your logic was probably like, everybody is doing that one, so it can't possibly be good. Hey, look, squirrel. Yes, I agree that this is really not the way to go, but can certainly be enjoyable. All right, so here we go. So let's see how these touring plans did. So, oh, I'm not going to tell you yet. There's yet another poll. Okay, so between all those strategies, what do you guys think is going to be the spread of time between the shortest and the longest plan? So what's your sense? Is it going to be 30-minute difference, 60-minute difference, 1 to 2 hours different? Could it possibly be a 2-hour difference between choosing a lousy plan and a good plan? What do you guys think we're going to see today? Oh, you guys have very strong opinions about this. You're being very speedy. All right, so it looks like all of you are rooting for a greater than 2-hour difference. I'm really concerned that I might disappoint you. I guess we'll see. Or at least a 1 to 2 hour difference. And there's general consensus that a good touring plan versus a bad touring plan, definitely going to be at least a 30-minute difference there. All right, so let's see what we find. So a little bit about what I did here. There is a website called touringplans.com, and they offer a personalized touring plan service. And in the background, they have a time-dependent traveling salesman problem running, and they have an evolutionary algorithm solving these problems. So we're using that interface, or I use that interface, and what it allows you to do is you can put in attractions in a specific order and ask, how long is it going to take me if I do them in this order? So that's what I did. And then you can also say, here's the attractions I want to see. What's the optimal way to see them? So we're going to see our 5 touring plan options and how they did, and then we'll look at how the optimal plan did as well. This service is available for free, so if you guys want to check it out for your next trip, if you go to touringplans.com, you can see and plan your next Disney trip as well and save lots of time. And I am not at all affiliated with them. I just think it's a cool example of operations research out in the wild. All right, so here's the backstory. We're on a trip. This trip is actually results from a trip I planned for Friday, December 28th, 2018. So a couple of years back, but typically this time of year, this is a Friday after Christmas. It's one of the busiest days to go to the Magic Kingdom. In fact, if you're sane, you're probably not planning a trip to the Magic Kingdom this day. It almost always closes for capacity, and it can be pretty miserable to be there. But we're going to go anyways. And on this very busy day, we're going to see how long it takes us to see these 10 attractions on our list. So up first, this timeline is in minutes. So we see our least popular attraction first strategy is going to take us 8 hours and 10 minutes to complete. So that is like absolutely miserable. So if we follow this strategy, you guys, a lot of you had a correct intuition here that this is definitely not the way to go. It's going to take 8 hours and 10 minutes to see these 10 attractions. Not too far behind, though, is our most popular first attraction route. So this is one of the routes that you guys thought would be one of the best things to do. Turns out there's going to be 3 options that are even faster. And if we follow this most popular attraction first route, it's going to take us 6 hours and 41 minutes to see those 10 rides. So it's much faster than our least popular one, but we can do better than that. Coming in third, we have our clockwise option. So if we enter the park and we go around clockwise, so this is headed to Jungle Cruise, Pirates, keep heading, and we end with Space Mountain and Buzz Lightyear. That's going to take about 7 minutes less. So we're finishing in about 6.5 hours. Now keep in mind, it's the busiest day of the year. So this is 6.5 hours of person-to-person crowds. Coming up next is back of the park, then left. So a few of you had voted for back of the park as one of the fastest ones, and it's definitely one of the faster ones. So it comes in at 5 hours and 43 minutes. If we run to the back of the park and then head around to the left. And that's almost 45 minutes faster than our clockwise option. And that leaves our counterclockwise option as the best option for amongst our 5. So we're going to head in the park, and we're simply going to go to the right and head counterclockwise around the park. So we're going to meet Mickey, then go to Buzz Lightyear, Space Mountain, Seven Dwarfs, and then continue on around. And the last thing we'll see is Jungle Cruise. And compared to some of these, this is actually a pretty simplistic looking travel plan. It's probably pretty easy to remember, head in and go right. So that's kind of cool. So some observations that we see from these 5 plans is that there's almost a 3-hour difference between our best plan and our worst plan. The problem was we didn't know which was the best or which was the worst. But if we had chosen the best one, which not many people did, we would have been in and out of this park on the busiest day, seeing the 10 top attractions in 5 hours and 15 minutes, versus 8 hours for our sort of worst performing option. Another sort of observation that I find interesting is that merely choosing the wrong direction. So I don't know about you, but I can never keep it straight, whether it's go to the right or go to the left. So if you had chosen to go the other way, you're going to take it 90 minutes more to get through your day.
Katie, there were two questions that came in that might be relevant. The first one was, how long of the duration is actual time of being on the rides?
So I don't have that information for these 5 like right off in hand, but I do have it for the optimal touring plan, and I'll be able to share that once we get there in like 2 minutes. What was the other question?
The other one was, wonder how much faster clockwise would be if you left Mickey for last and started straight with Jungle Cruise.
See, I know, right? Like you can just ask these what if questions like all day long. So I'm like right there with you that I would want to know that too. And if you like find this stuff interesting, you can like play those games with the software like all day long. Okay, so here are our touring plans. Optimal solution. I'm not going to tell you right away. I'm going to put up a poll. So based on what you've seen so far, do you guys have any guesses as to what attractions you're going to see in the top 3? So you guys can choose 3 attractions. What do you think are the first 3 attractions to see on that optimal plan? Do you have any idea? All right, looks like we have some consensus. All right, so it looks like if we're all standing at the front of the park and we're gonna vote, we're all gonna be running to Space Mountain first. There are quite a few votes for Seven Dwarfs Mine Train as well. Buzz Lightyear is up there in the top. A few of you are still gonna stick with Mickey, Meet Mickey at Town Square Theater. And then the other votes are kind of all over the place. No one's running to Splash Mountain early on a December morning. I don't see why. Jungle Cruise, poor Jungle Cruise got no votes. All right, so let's see what they actually are. All right, so our top 3 attractions are, number 1, the first thing we're gonna go see is we're gonna meet Mickey at Town Square Theater. And then we're gonna hightail it to Peter Pan's Flight. And then we'll see Space Mountain. So if you guys have used the touring plan strategies before, you will have already been familiar that Peter Pan's actually always one of the top ones because it loads so slowly. But the first time I saw this, I was like, this cannot possibly be correct. Why would I ever run to Peter Pan's Flight first? So they have you do things that you'd never really think of unless you had something that was evaluating all the different possible plans for you. All right, so with those 3, if we add in our optimal touring plan, he comes in at 4 hours and 24 minutes, so almost 45 minutes faster than any of the plans we came up with. So it's our optimal plan is 3 hours and 45 minutes faster than the worst one, so it's almost 4 hours faster than least popular first. It's 51 minutes faster than our best plan, so almost an hour faster. And it's going to take us 4 hours and 24 minutes to see all 10 attractions on arguably the busiest day of the year, that's like nothing. And in my personal experience, I have tried these on the busiest days of the year and gone and done everything I wanted to do and left the park by like noon. So they absolutely work. All right, so here's a closer look at the optimal plan. After we see Mickey, Peter Pan, and Space Mountain, we sort of take a nice sort of tour around the park. So it's headed, what's that, clockwise-ish. And someone was asking about a breakdown. So we're gonna spend 264 minutes total. And then of that, 133 minutes will be in line waiting. So about 2 hours waiting for these attractions and about an hour walking. So 3 hours, so about 90 minutes will actually be enjoying the attractions themselves. All right, so let's see what's coming up next. So all of these analyses here were done without fast passes. So I'm often asked when we do this in person, well, what about fast passes? Because I know there's fast passes, and if you're not familiar with it, fast passes basically right now you can, well, you can't right now, but let's pretend there's no COVID. You can sign up for a time that you want to ride the ride, and then you just show up. So you show up and then you ride the ride, and the line is typically less than 10 minutes. So what I did to add fast passes to this analysis is each of these touring plans came with a long list of attractions and how long we were going to wait in each of the lines. So I looked at that list for each of these touring plans, and I chose the 3 longest lines for each of the plans. And those are the attractions I got fast passes for. So the fast passes were different depending on what plan that I was evaluating. But doing that, getting fast passes for the 3 longest lines per plan actually shifted them all so that there's less time. But still the order remained the same. So if we added in fast passes, we're gonna see our optimal set of attractions in about 200 minutes. And that's still about 30 minutes faster, or half hour faster than our fastest plan. So our, the order of which attractions are best stays the same, but we just get through each plan faster. I have a couple more things for you today. So my next thing, you guys might be wondering, well, what about now? Like this happened 2 years ago. What about now? The reason why I'm using 2-year-old data is this actually takes a really long time to gather, and the story is always the same. So what about COVID-19 operations? So right now the parks are open. They're running under limited capacity, so they only let so many people in each day. And there's no fast passes right now, so everybody's in the standby line. So I did this same analysis for operations. I think I have the date coming up, but a little bit after Christmas for this year. And one of the changes that I needed to make was that they're not doing character greetings right now, so you can't meet Mickey. So I substituted Winnie the Pooh's ride instead of Mickey. So if we look at touring times for December 26th, 2020, and those same touring plan options, we're going with no fast passes and limited park capacity, and everybody's in a standby line. Things are actually quite different. So we see that our least popular and most popular options have switched places. So most popular becomes the worst thing to do in the current operation. So do not do that one. It's actually better to do least popular first right now. But even better than least popular first is heading towards the back of the park and then heading left. And then our clockwise and counterclockwise options come in actually pretty equitably. So before we saw that these were about an hour apart. Right now under current operations, you can choose either direction and it's like a 6-minute difference. That's really nothing. And then our optimal touring plan under the current conditions comes in only 3 minutes faster. It's just slightly different than heading counterclockwise. They just switch the order of Peter Pan and Sevendorf's Mine Train. So there's some lessons to be learned here. One is that the counterclockwise, clockwise, and optimal solutions are all within 9 minutes of each other. So under current operations, you have a lot of flexibility in how you want to tour the parks. We also saw that the most popular attraction first becomes the worst strategy to do now. So don't do that. Don't go running to Space Mountain first thing. It's going to end up very badly. But probably the most important observation from this is that we can't use observations from one day and assume that it's going to be the optimal plan for a different day. So we can't use our pre-COVID typical day touring strategies. We can't use those now. We have to reevaluate what to do and change our plans. And that's the same for operations research out in the wild. So if you have some OR model that you're using for your business, you want to make sure you're reevaluating that model frequently as your conditions in your business change. All right, so I think this is the last thing. Is another question you can answer with OR is, should we sleep in or go to rope drop? So rope drop is arriving right before the park opens, and then back in like the 80s, they physically held up a rope and dropped it on the ground and you like went running into the park. So that's why it's called rope drop. All right, so let's say we head into the park. This is on that busy day. We go in right when it opens at 7 a.m. It's going to take us 4 hours and 24 minutes. If we decided to sleep just 1 hour more, that 1 hour of sleep is going to make our touring time 50% longer. And that 50% longer is just going to be 2 extra hours waiting in line. And if you've ever traveled to Disney with a little child, you do not want to spend 2 extra hours waiting in line. And then we can sort of see this sort of pattern continue. We're in the park longer and longer and longer till about 11, and then it starts to tail off. But one thing to see here, if we sleep 2 hours, so if we go at 9 a.m., our 2 hours of sleep equals twice as long touring. So we're going to be in that park 4 extra hours, which is insane. And if we sleep for those 2 extra hours, we might as well just continue sleeping, right? Like, don't get up now. You might as well sleep all the way till 2 in the afternoon and go then, because it's going to take you just as long to see those attractions at 2 than it will be at 9. And if we were to sleep in and enter the park at 11, you're in for a nightmare of a day. It's going to take you 9 hours and 45 minutes to see what would have taken you 4 hours and 24 minutes to see if you went at rope drop. So for me, it's like a no-brainer. I always go in the morning and then we nap and use the pool in the afternoon. All right, so lessons learned today is one, our intuition can fail us when decisions are complicated or there's a lot of choices. So we can use operations research techniques to save significant amounts of time and money. So for us on vacation, time is definitely important. As business operators, we're probably very interested in saving money. We also learned that we need to reevaluate our solutions as conditions change. So we don't want to just find one solution and use it forever and ever and ever. As things change, whether it's COVID or whether it's a rainy day, those optimal touring strategies are going to be different. And we also learned that sleep is very expensive. So I'd just like to give a special thanks to touringplans.com for providing that really awesome example of operations research in action. And if you guys have any questions, I'm happy to stay and answer them. I'm very appreciative that you hung on with me this whole time, and thank you.
I'll let it sit here for a second just in case anyone's got a question or two. Oh, looks like one just came in.
It says, thank you. You're welcome, Don.
All right. Well, thank you, Katie, for sharing your expertise with alumni and friends today. And thank you at home for joining us. As I mentioned earlier, we will send information out on how to access the recording in the near future. Also, don't forget to make your Road Day gift by using the link in the chat box. Lastly, if you're not already connected to RIT, Alumni Association social media channels, we encourage you to do so. Those links can also be found in the chat box. Thank you again for joining us and enjoy the rest of your Tiger Alumni Week.
All right, thank you guys.